So my bad point is that we might be seeing the end of the G2 dynasty. And I don't mean that they're gonna have a bad year. I mean they're gonna have a bad couple of years.
Oh,
And
okay. Fucking hell.
yeah,
All
I'm
right.
gonna take
Okay.
it really
Come
far. I'm
on.
gonna take it really far, okay? So so I think their roster, first of all, so I think they downgraded both roles and that they're also now a dysfunctional roster with very high individual skill. But I don't see many metas where they are going to be very successful. I don't think Caps and Scumant are a very good combination. And if Caps is your carry, like your best player, you want people around him that work well with him. I don't think Yike was actually that great of a match for him. I think someone like Razok and Elyoya would do much better. Um, Having said that, I think Scuman is a bit more of an extreme version of Yike, and that doesn't function well at all with the type of mid laner that Caps is. I don't think it functions well with the strong side top laner, which Broken Blade leans a bit into, and therefore I think they might not have a great year. I can still see them win a title or so, but I don't think they're gonna like be a happy-go-lucky team. I don't think they're gonna be consistently at the top. And then there's something that's going to happen that could change everything for G2, and that's Caps' contract is running out, and so is someone else's that is very very
Oh, okay.
enticing to look at. Like I see a very obvious roster move next year, which is Caps to Fnatic, and that could end G2 for a couple of years.
Okay, well, instantly came with the heat there, Peter. So where we going on this
Yeah,
one, mate?
I mean that's a banger point. Like, holy moly, I didn't realize Merrick's contract expand next year. Like the I mean, what I would say for this is, firstly, that's very, very interesting. I would love to see it happen. Like, I would love to see them swap mid laners just for the shit show that we would see, in it. I take your point. I take your point about Skumond. I agree that Skumon's a more extreme version of Yike. I think Caps is so good that he can play multiple roles. So, but he's
sure.
forced to play. You don't get the best out of him if you play him with somebody like Yak or like somebody like Skumon. So I agree with that. But as you were talking, I was thinking, who in the ERLs right now is good enough to kind of fill that role at that level? And there is nobody. Like,
There's no one.
when I'm thinking about kind of the best supportive junglers in ERLs, it's like Douglas. Like the other ones are all like really, really good carry junglers. And honestly, Skewmont is just better at being a carry jungler than all of those guys. So you don't have any of those supportive guys coming up, which is interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be able to swap their way out of it. Huh.
No, the only roster move that would never happen is someone like Jankos, but I don't think that fixes the entire roster.
Yeah, I see it. I see it. I think definitely if you were bringing in Skew, I wouldn't. I can understand why they gambled, but I think gambling on both at the same time is really, really dangerous.
Exactly.
And just because it worked out for you 2 years ago, it's like it's because you went from Targamas to Mickey, right? Like it's not. It's like that. I think that's it. So I can see it. It's a big claim to make. I will reserve judgment until next year, but definitely I
Fair
can see
enough.
this year. Like if Cap stays, I think G2 are fine. I think
Yeah, of
if Cap
course.
stays, G2 are fine, right? But if he goes, it's going to be really, really rough. The only thing is there any team that's going to outpay G2? Maybe Fnatic. Like, but the thing is, I don't see. Like, I think the years that Vitality is spending 3 million on a player are over. I think that I can't think of any other team because Koi aren't going to spend like more than 1 million on a player. So it's only Fnatic or G2. So the only org that Caps could really go to is G2. Maybe BDS. Maybe BDS could pay 1 million. I could see BDS paying 7 figures. But yeah, he's going to get paid. It would be so funny. Sorry, G2 fans, but it would just be so funny to see Caps go to Fnatic. Even if it failed, it would still be funny.
It would be so hyped though.
It would
Like
be so. It would be
the
so
comeback
hype.
of the
Yeah.
one.
Return of the
Yeah.
prodigal son.
Great storyline.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like the off-season moves that they did, just because it worked 2.5 years ago, doesn't mean that it's going to work now. And I think that they gambled 2.5 years ago, and then convinced themselves it wasn't a gamble, and then gambled again, and this time they rolled Snake Eyes, right? So it's like Yeah, so it's I'm with you on that. Yeah, but let's see the next one. See, whatever happens though, Caps is going to get paid, and he's already the highest paid player in the EU.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I had a few players tell me there's a salary cap currently in the LEC, and it's only like 200k this year. It was 400k
Right.
last year. So I don't think anyone's going to outpay them. And then if I'm Caps, if I had to choose one jungler and one support to play with, it would be actually Razork and Mickey, and they happen to be on the same team. So
Yeah.
I think at that point, just take whoever is AD carry or top for granted and just go there. So I think it's pretty logical.
I've got a quick question on this. Is it hard salary cap or soft salary cap? So, because I wasn't involved in roster building on Heretics, because you know.
In other words, is it like the LCK where you can just like pay more money over the top,
Yeah, like
but it goes to the rest of the teams or something? Is it something like that?
I don't think so.
I thought it was every euro you pay over the salary cap goes into pool and is then split with the other teams.
Right.
But if it's a hard salary cap, well, anyway, the point is that if it is a hard salary cap and that's what they've got in place, they should say something because it makes it makes a difference to the fans, to the fan experience. Because then like that, you know, salary table that Sheep Esports has, you know, if the gap between the top team, I imagine the gap between the top team and the bottom team is like 1 million, right? Like I think it's somewhere between 1.5 to 500k. But if the gap is like 1 million to 900k, then you know it's much less impressive if you're like the ninth highest paying roster. So yeah, so that's what I would say on that. Yeah, I mean, if it is a hard salary cap, then okay, my point doesn't stand. If it's not, that makes it even less likely that even fewer teams that would be willing to go over the salary cap.
Yeah, I don't know if it's hard or soft. I just know that existing contracts, they don't have to get lowered, but at least that's what I've heard.
Right.
Okay. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, right. There's a bunch of angles here. First of all, it's a controversial take because they did win like every split except one after they signed Yike. But I actually always thought that was a crazy gamble. I mean, if people forget, everyone forgets the off-season drama. They weren't trying to trade Jankos for Yike. They were trying to get El Yoya, and supposedly the deal was almost done, and then bizarrely it just turned around. If people don't know, that's actually why he's had all these years within Mad Lions where there's been all internal conflict. He was just stuck in Mad Lions again. So basically, I always thought, bro, just bring in hands, isn't that? No, if you keep Jankos, you keep Mickey X, you keep all the rest of the team, you just bring in Broken Blade and you bring in hands. That's the move to me. So I always thought it was crazy they went for the Yank gamble anyway, because look, even though they did win all the splits, I'd say what they didn't look as dynamic a team internationally. I often thought actually that's where you would see Yank have a good game, but the rest of them have a bad game, or you have a not good game, but then the Lanes have a good game. I always thought if you're going to bring Broken Blade in, the weirdest thing about the way they constructed this G2 with the three carry roles is you're not really going to get the most out of Broken Blade actually in that scenario, because in the Hansama teams, I've just talked to so many teammates and coaches, they say you basically have to play his way. Like you play lane dominant, you play through him, you get his champions are powered up, and then he goes and you move around the map and you kill everyone, right? The problem is, if you have Broken Blade, there's going to be metas where you want to play a carry top, mate. You want to have all those really aggressive champions and the weird picks that we're talking about before. But instead, in this team, he does sort of default. It's like what Wonder used to do. He could play carry top, but when he has like the perks Mickey X bot lane, he's probably just going to play the tank and play the bruiser and just going to be awesome in a team fight. That's going to be his job. So I don't think you get the full aspect of Broken Blade in that sense. And for me, if you'd have had Jankos, you could also just service Broken Blade and Caps way better. And then I'd also just throw out there on the Caps contract thing. That is why the most interesting detail I want people to track this year goes like this. Do you get an announcement before the off-season that he's re-signed with G2? Because if you don't, I don't know technically if they still operate on the Carlos rules, but the Carlos rules go that if we don't re-sign you on the last year, you're definitely going at that point in time. Like at that point, like basically I'm going to even try and sell you if possible. Like if someone came in around summer, maybe I'll even sell you so I can get value out the contract. Like that's why he would always make people re-sign when it was coming up to the last year. And essentially that's why it's implied in some of the other lineups that when people didn't do the re-sign, basically you can just look at the clock, it's ticking for you. You know it's over. Like you're not going to be there after that. So the idea you would ever let Caps, this is why the salary cap angle would be interesting. The idea you would ever let Caps test free agency is crazy, because unless he has a bad year, he's the most eligible free agent ever. And people forget this. He's still only like 25. He's not like 29 and this is his last year clinging on. Bro, this guy could still keep going for 3-4 years as an elite player, maybe even as good. And then, yeah, I agree with you, Youngbuck, because the other thing that could change this is, if there's a soft salary cap, I can tell you that the difference is, a normal team just gets the budget from the GM, and then they just pick. It's like those fucking jokes of like, pick 4 albums. You have $15. There's the $5 album, and you can't always pick all the $5 ones. You pick a $5 one, a $3 one, and 2 ones that are cheap, right? Normally that's what you're doing. But I can tell you, if you're getting a player that isn't just an amazing player that could win you the championship, which by the way you imply into your calculation. What if we win? What if we win the prize money? What if we win go to Worlds? That changes the sponsor dynamic. But I can tell you, if it's someone with a massive name like a Caps, you can quite literally just get your org to go to sponsors, and sometimes one sponsor will just say, okay, I'll come in for like 2 million more to get that guy because I want to be a part of. By the way, in the past, people like Reckless, etc. People have gone to NA teams. Like, this is like a massive factor as to why when you sign some of these players, you're not going to bench them at that point in time because there's actually business considerations that are massive. So even though Fnatic is not traditionally a team in the last few years that spends huge, if you can get Caps back, and by the way, let's just roll this in there as well. He was supposed to be their mid laner for the whole time. So if you're Sam Matthews, bro, if you can ever pull the trigger on this one, it doesn't. You gamble on that 1 year at that point, not least because, by the way, it's just one of the only times you can ever be like, okay, Carlos, I actually got one over you this time, which hasn't happened about 10 times in a row now. In fact, the joke is it's only them getting given Mickey X that's made them look like they've got that on the other side. And then the one other angle for that would be, the other angle you could potentially shade, because I agree, a lot of the like regional based teams probably aren't going to spend massively. In fact, they've obviously gone towards people from the RLs that are cheaper, and they've already got the coaches that guy's going to go to. There's 2 other angles here. One would be if Fnatic is awesome this year, bro. If Fnatic plays the way they do right now with Razork and Mickey X, and I'll lose to that as Caps, like 2 or 3 splits. It's like you say, young, why don't I just play with them? I'm better than Humanoid. Why don't I just go and play with them? And then I'll win everything. I'll be back to being the number 1 dominant team. It would even just be an appealing move. And then also there's the whole angle of like, there might still yet be a world where a Falcons or some super mega loaded Saudi team comes and buys in. If they come and buy in, by the way, and there's a soft salary cap, I'll tell you what, Caps, you can get paid fucking LCS money if you want now, mate. Like, if they're willing to also pay all the other teams the extra cash, which, by the way, if you're really cynical, you could just say, we'll win all the splits, then we get like whatever, 120k extra. We can value that into the equation. So depends how crazy people are with the gamble. I have to say though, just narratively, it would be the craziest hype angle ever if you get Caps goes back to Fnatic, and then he's even like united with Mickey X again. Like, if you're G2, that's like the one off-season ever where the G2 fans are going to be like, this sucks. This is what it's like to be in the other teams. Like, this fucking blows. Like, we've got a worse team now. That could be the world. And also, if everyone in the LEC is going to make fun of Humanoid for all these years, and then if you're G2, you have to replace some Caps with Humanoid, like, good luck selling that to the fans, mate. Just good luck selling that. It's going to be a hard sell. I don't know what clever marketing campaign you're going to come up with that one. And you know what? In the end, you will have to admit no one is perfect. You're right.
I mean,
no one is perfect.
Caps is also one of the few players that would get Asian offers. And
oh yeah, sure.
It doesn't mean that he would go to LPL or LCK, but agents aren't stupid, right?
No, you play that against other teams. Yeah, exactly.
You play that against the other teams. Which would
By the way, that's it. If someone like Falcons came in, and I can tell you from CS, they are willing to literally pay. Like, they don't even just do like we do $1 above the salary amount. They just go, should we just double it? And then they just see if you say yes, right? If the team like that comes in, here's what you do, Caps as agent. You go like Peter says, you get the ridiculous LPL team that gives you the insane offer, and then you just take that to Falcons and go beat that. They don't know you would ever go into the LPL anyway, of course, but you just play them off against each other. No, I'm with you on that one.
And that's if there's a soft salary cap, and if there is a hard salary cap, just go and take make
the best roster.
Just go to LPL, right? Like I don't know if it's a soft salary cap, do that and stay in EU. But if there's a hard salary cap and the most you can get is 200k, just go and get your million.
That would be crazy. Like, it's the only way you're going to get millions in this era. Yeah,
exactly. Like LPL has a salary cap too.
Yeah,
it is a hard salary cap, but the way that, for people that don't know, the way that LPL players get paid is that they sign a contract with the team, which is within the hard salary cap, and then they sign, what's it called, sponsorship agreements, or like
it's like some Man City shit here. I see what you're doing. Okay,
right. Exactly. So they're not being you are getting paid more than the hard salary cap, right? Like everyone knows it, right? Like this is not like a top secret thing that I'm leaking, right? But yeah. So if it's a hard salary cap in EU, just go and get your Chinese money. Like somebody will pay, right? Like so that will be fun.
Yeah.
Still 18 months away, but obviously, like, you know, you have to show that. I mean, maybe there's still a world where G2 turns it around, but yeah, I'm with Youngbuck on this one, right? Like, there's
so definitely... I think part of my narrative is that when I look at the G2 games, I just don't see anything inspiring or like extremely high level or like some redeeming qualities where I feel like, yeah, this team is really going to turn it around and become dominant again. It's just yeah, it
Okay.
doesn't look like their macro is pretty weak right now. And if I look at the personality types, I think maybe Broken Blade could fix it, but then again, you need metas that really facilitate that. So I'm really curious to see how that develops, like when they remove lane swaps. If G2 could make a comeback, I think it's like the only way that they could. But other than that, I don't see much inspiring gameplay coming out of them.
Yeah, two things on that. One, another reason why, as long as he's still good, you just gamble and send the whole org on getting caps is because if people don't know, he actually is just Anakin Skywalker of European League of Legends, guys. The worst he has ever placed in an entire split is 4th. Ever. Aside from that, it was just the finals 1 billion times, and he lost once in the finals from like a miracle performance from Rogue, who, by the way, I've heard would have actually just broken up if they hadn't won that final. Like, that wasn't even one they were supposed to win. So it's obviously the ultimate play. You just send it on. If you get, it's the same as if you could get trophy or something like that. Of course you do it. You just break the bank. Like, you'd be a fool not to. And then on this angle, technically we did get lost to the source of it. It was supposed to be about G2 not being a generational dynasty anymore. The reason I agree is, even though people think this is harsh, I do think that, like, Broken Blade is one of the contenders for best top laner. Hansam at times has been the best ADC. The difference is, though, they aren't generational talents for me in the same way as like Prime Perks, Prime Caps, Prime Yankos, Prime Mickey X. That was what you had in the super team that was amazing, is it was a super team and it was awesome. And you could even have seen, they tried to all the years out, you could have taken like one piece out here and there and you'd still have like 3 generational players, 2 generational, and the problem is they've gone down, and it's only Caps now. And so here's the lens I want to give people to G2, is imagine Caps does go. Like, you can have your choice of any mid laner. You can have Humanoid, you can have Joe. Take any mid laner. That's now not the best team in the LEC. I don't care what the rest of the lineup is like. Caps is what even gives you the chance to still be the number 1 team. So if you take him out, by the way, that's a terrible side. If Caps listens to this argument, it's going to go, yeah, but wait a minute. So I'm the only one making this actual all-time great team. Yeah, that's a bad sign, mate. That's when you hit the bricks, because I can tell you a very quick example if people just know CS. In CS, we just had this scenario like this happen, where the player Nico is like probably the 4th best player in the world last year, and he left G2, who was like one of the best teams. They were in a position to win everything, and all these fans were like, "Why would you ever leave, though?" And it's like, because he's one of the reasons they're in that position to win. Like, by the way, now he's left, that seems like questionable to even win a tournament again with this lineup. So when players realise, wait, I'm doing a lot of the heavy lifting of making us really great, people get bored of that eventually. You want to play with the other fucking super sick players, like I say, who are torturing you in all the scrims and winning all the stages. You want to just go, let's actually have 3 players that are unbelievable and could do something at Worlds. Because there's another thing, by the way. If you're Caps, you can't... That's why I thought the Yike move was a gamble back in the day. You can't actually tell me, like, look, give Yike another year and then he could be really good at Worlds. Like, bro, I want to be good at Worlds every year. Like, I almost won that shit a couple of times. Like, I need to be back there now. So I need the jungler, like, that's why I can see why they want Del Yoya. I want the jungler that now can be the best and can go against the Asian guys. So, yeah, G2's got to put it this way. That G2 GM, once upon a time, that was the easiest gig in the game. I mean, not least because they were poaching like a motherfucker. I'm just going to say that. But they were the best at it. They were the best at poaching. But I tell you what, that's about to become the hot seat after this year, based on what you're saying. If the contract runs out, yeah, that makes or breaks your career, what you do there.
And it's not just that one move. It's like, if you're a player, you want to join the good roster. So for example, I think Caps would never go to LPL. I think they just join the best roster, right? But if you're a player making a decision on joining a roster, if your top laner and AD carry are your best players, or you can choose between like a good jungle support, like 9 out of 10 players are going to choose a jungle support. So I feel like Caps leaving doesn't just leave the hole of Caps leaving, it also leaves the hole where it's going to be much more difficult to attract like the top talent. If a player can choose between, for example, Koi and G2, I think a lot of players would actually choose Koi.
Right.
And that's why the Dynasty would actually fall.
Okay.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.